Okay. Well, I'll check my email where I came in. I haven't seen it. All right. Good evening and welcome everybody to the Sunnyside City Council regular meeting for today, November 27th, 2023. For the record, all members of council are here with the exception of Mr. Beeler and Mr. Restucci. Has anybody heard from Mr. Beeler requesting an excused absence?
I thought he requested one last week.
I'm trying to remember if
He did.
okay, and we'd excuse it. Okay, so yes. And then Mr. Restucci is requesting an excused absence from this evening as well. Is any objection to that? Hearing none, he is excused as well. And we do have a quorum, so. And all members of staff are present and accounted for as well. All right, first item of business, invocation. Do we have somebody to do an invocation this evening? We do. All right, I'd like to ask that you please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful that we can be together at the city council meeting. We ask thy blessings to be given to our city council, that the decisions that they make will be good for our community and our city. And we appreciate the service that they have given. And we are grateful to be able to live in this free land, that we are able to worship, we're able to be able to pledge allegiance, and we are grateful for the blessings that we have. In these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Pledge allegiance to
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. First item on the agenda this evening is an item that we all get to enjoy and celebrate. We get to celebrate the accomplishments of a couple of our community members, a couple of our young ladies. We have Audrina Campos, who is Miss Yakima County Teen, and Valeria, which do you prefer? Valeria Lopez, who is our Miss Yakima County. And they will go through events over the course of this next year or so, and will be receiving pins from all over the place. And I know they represent Yakima County, but they also represent Sunnyside. And as a community, we want to symbolize how we go with them, how we are very impressed with their accomplishments, how we are proud of them, and how they make our community feel very good about ourselves. And you guys have done a great job. And so I would like to present you with your pins this evening. So if you would please come forward. You guys do that yourself. Here's one for each of you. Wear that with pride, knowing that we are extremely proud of you as you turn to face the cameras. All right. All right. Well, I honestly believe that is a really cool accomplishment, and yeah, wish you guys the best as you go through all of this. And then you compete now for Miss Washington and Miss Washington Teen. Is that right? That is going to be awesome when you win. So, all right. Next item is public comments. Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and or research for presentation at a future council meeting. And please be aware that it's not our custom necessarily to comment at the time of the comments. Looking at the public comment sign up sheet, and I have 0 names on here. So somebody Mrs. Lindy, would you please approach the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and make your comments.
Well, thank you. I'm Sandra Lindy. My city is, well, I live outside the city, but I consider it the city. And as a mother whose daughters were also in the Miss Yakima program. I am so proud that we have two Sunnyside girls serving this year. And yes, I know it's Miss Yakima County, which is cool, but in my heart, they're Miss Sunnyside girls. And so I'm just very grateful for that. And I also, now I'm glad my pastor canceled so that I had to come to do it tonight. And I really want to thank those of you who have served but won't be continue serving, how grateful we are for everything you have done, and you will still be doing for a couple months, of course. And I love this community. So I just want to say that. Hopefully that's my 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Lindy. All right, we have somebody else whose hand is up. Yeah, please approach the microphone, state your name and city of residence, make your comments.
Sharon Dolan. I would like to thank Mike Farmer and Craig Hicks for serving on the city council. And I would like to also congratulate R.A. Galvan for his position that he won. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. All right. Anyone else? All right, so moving on. Consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the following. Payroll vouchers. Approved payroll vouchers numbers 119407 through 119416 and wire transfers as listed for $588,589.23 and for the period ending on November 10, 2023. Claim vouchers. Approved claim voucher numbers 107825 through 107855 and wires transfers as listed for $98,815.05 for the period ending on November 8, 2023. And approved claim voucher numbers 107856 through 107919 and wire transfers as listed for $573,434.57 for the period ending November 15, 2023. Is there any item that any council member would like to remove from the consent agenda for discussion? Hearing none, I do have one question. It's just to clarify one thing. And so I noticed an item, I can't give you the line number, but we spent $16,000 some to the Humane Society. And as I read it, I kind of understood that is to purchase a pickup from them. Is that correct?
That's correct. We purchased the animal control vehicle that has the built-in kennels on the back, along with catch poles, microchip scanner, and some other equipment that our animal control officer, who is now an employee of Sunnyside, was familiar with using.
Okay, so now we have a fully equipped animal control vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
All right. That's what I thought I understood. Just wanted to make sure.
And if I may say, we have animals that would love a home if somebody is looking. We have 9 currently in 2 kennels. So if you'd like to find a home for them, let us know.
All right. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Counselor Hicks, second by Counselor Ripley to approve the consent agenda. Is there debate on this item? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Active agenda. 2024 fiscal year budget final public hearing. We had a public hearing a couple of weeks ago. Tonight is the second and final public hearing on the 2024 City of Sunnyside budget. We do have one person who wishes to speak on that. And so that's not quite time for that, Sis. I'll call you up in just a minute. Sorry. Apologize for giving that impression. All right. First, I have to read the form. So this public hearing is being held to receive public comments and recommendations concerning the 2024 preliminary budget. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and state your objection. The time is now 6:39 p.m. and the public hearing is now open. The procedure will be this way. First, the city manager will provide the staff report on the item. And then any person in the audience wishing to be heard on this matter, I will call you up and you may approach the microphone. And then it'll be to any more audience members, council members, and then we'll close the hearing. So, Madam City Manager.
And I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Horner for her staff presentation.
Ms. Horner.
Thank you, Madam City Manager and Mr. Mayor and members of council and the public. This is our final hearing on the 2024 fiscal year budget. We have presented the information to you at several different meetings and taken comments and are happy to do so again. Hopefully, we've gotten this narrowed down so that we're covering the programs that council wants to cover. There have been no changes since the most recent meeting where we had our previous public hearing. So there have been no additional updates to the budget since then. So I'm happy to have any questions at this time.
All right, so the one person who signed up on the list is Sis Kennard. So Sis, you may approach the microphone now.
I'm Sis Kennard. I'm from Sunnyside. I will admit I didn't study and review all 135 pages of the budget. Actually, what happened was I got to about page 30 and I noticed a couple of trends. And I just want to make sure that my council members also notice those trends. One of them is I didn't see a lot of cutting of expenses. The second thing that I noticed was a real discrepancy in the numbers between the 2020 actual and the 2024 requested. Now I realize that's a 4-year period and I realize some things can change and get moved around, but just specifically on page 29, just talking about the municipal court, in 2020, the budget was $471,942. The requested 2024 is $764,140. On page 31, the 2020 budget, actual budget, was $133,311. The requested 2024 is $243,820. That's an increase, actually, even over the 2023 of $56,000. And then on page 33, the financial city clerk services for 2020 was $333,842, and the requested for the 2024 is $533,640. That is an increase for also over the 2023 of $148,840. So I'm sure council members, you've already asked these questions, but this is where I'm at. To me, these increases indicate somewhere between a 35 and 45% inflation from 2020 to 2024. According to the U.S. calculations, the prices have gone up since 2020 by 19%. So I just want you to think carefully, unless you're expecting another 20% inflation, that we are looking really objectively at this 2024 budget. And then the real question I have is, where's all this money coming from? So please, Councilman, please ask the difficult questions and be informed, because not all of us are on the payroll, but it looks a little outlandish, actually. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Kennard. And I don't know if staff wants to tackle answering. I'm probably not the right person to try to answer that question right now. These types of concerns are definitely legitimate concerns. Although as I'm looking at the page numbers that you indicated, I'm not seeing the same numbers. So I'm not sure if I'm looking at a different page or.
There were page numbers in the earlier version that was the printable version. And then the page numbers that are presented in tonight's council packet have all of those extra pages taken out because it's for posting. So there may be some discrepancies there. If you would tell me the department numbers, Ms. Kennard, I can pull those up a little bit more easily. I know you said finance and clerk was one and the municipal court. I don't know what the other one was. Oh, thank you. Perfect.
We'll give her a little bit of time to check that out. But no, these are legitimate questions, and we encourage citizens to ask those questions. We're not so proud to think that we're not possibly going to ever, look over something and not see it. And so those are legitimate questions, and we'll give her a second to
I
come up with
can,
answers.
I can pretty much start if you're ready.
You go right ahead.
So the Sunnyside Municipal Court costs have gone up a significant amount, and there are a couple of reasons for that. The first is that there was a mandate by the state of Washington that municipal courts provide better public defense services, and we've been working on that issue for several years, and it required us to renegotiate all of our public defense contracts effective at the end of 2022. So starting in 2023, we have all new public defense contracts. Those costs went up by more than double. And we're required to maintain a certain level of competency and representation for people that appear in our court to be defended for indigent defense services. So that includes providing money for their defense attorneys to do investigations, money for translation services, and making sure that we have enough full-time defense attorneys available. And so that did increase the costs, I want to say off the top of my head, by about $250,000 just in that one expenditure line item of its own. Another additional thing that happened recently was the state of Washington passed some things that require the cities to offer certain diversionary programs, so that if somebody is in, and Ben may be able to correct me if I get anything wrong here, but someone who's in court with like their first drug charge, we're required to offer them some sort of diversionary program to allow them to go and seek treatment in lieu of getting a conviction. And so that required us to put an entire new program into place. And so in order to fund that, and we did talk about this a little bit earlier in the budget process when we asked for an additional court clerk position to help mitigate some of those increased requirements on the court. So those two issues in and of themselves are really the things that increased those overall court costs so significantly. We also did renegotiate with a new judge and new prosecuting attorney, and those costs went up as well a little bit, all in the spirit of trying to provide a more robust court system to give people a fair hearing, but also hold people accountable.
And Ms. Warner, if I could remind you that we also hired a bailiff
Correct.
as an employee instead of a security service because they were not reliable. And we had our court with no security, and we were trying to rely on either our own corrections staff or we tried to hire the sheriff. That didn't work. So that was an increased cost to this to keep this building secure during court.
For the finance and city clerk services, this year, the council did also approve an additional deputy city clerk position. And so we hired that position, I believe, in August. So the costs, there are a little bit of those costs at the end of 2023. And then that full year's salary is built into the 2024 wages as well. In addition, another change was to reclassify the city clerk / executive assistant position to being a communications director / city clerk position. So that will take effect at the beginning of 2023 per the request of council that we do that. And I can't think of, Elizabeth, off the top of your head, I can't think of any other specific thing to finance that affected that.
Not that I remember, no.
Those changes are mostly seen just in wages because of the additional position and the increased responsibility of the other. And then the executive service contracts, or the executive service personnel costs also foot some of the cost of that deputy city clerk, because that person is now serving as the executive assistant. So some of those salary amounts changed. We also put the city manager's salary on an automatic COLA increase. I think you guys, council voted on that earlier this year, so that we didn't have the problem that we've had in years previous, where as staff is getting cost of living increases based on the personnel policy manual, that those wages aren't outpacing the city manager's salary. And then some of the ways that we distribute salaries for the city manager, it is costed out into some of the other funds, like portions of the water fund, sewer fund, and the ambulance fund. And we have revisited those splits based on the amount of time that the city manager spends doing work in each of those departments. And so some of those allocations have changed slightly so that the salary is being proportioned a little bit higher out of the general fund.
And then there was a question at the end, and I think it's an important one. Where's the funding coming for these increases?
So the ones that we just talked about right here, most of that is covered just in the general operating tax increases. It is covered by that. The overall overarching increases, a lot of that has to do with capital purchases based on ARPA expenditures. And actually, if you just before the budget here, I can give you guys updated information on ARPA spending.
Okay, somebody's got their microphone on their computer, and I'd like to ask that you mute yourself.
Jackie, would you mind scrolling to just before the budget so we can have the ARPA spending on here? I think other higher numbers, or more towards the front, not the back. Yeah. Keep going. It's before this document. So we spoke about a little bit at the last meeting that initially when the ARPA funding came through, we knew that we had, it's the next page forward. Right there. Thank you. We knew that we had to use all of our ARPA funding by the end of 2026. Every penny that we've received has to be spent by December 31st of 2026. And that those funds have to be basically obligated by the end of 2024. We received some new guidance. The IRS passed a new interim final rule, basically indicating that some of the requirements for what is called obligating the funds are going to be a little stricter than we had initially anticipated. So to date, so far, we've spent 1.7 million of our $4.6 million in ARPA expenditures. So we need to really spend that other 2.9 million by the end of 2024, if possible, or at very least have contracts in place for the expenditure of those funds versus putting plans into place and allowing some of those expenditures to roll over for the next couple of years.
All right, thank you. And I hope that answers your question, or at least goes down the right road towards answering that. And the reason I really encourage Ms. Horner to continue and answer that question thoroughly, if there's one person who has a question, I've learned over the years that there's probably more than one who have the same question and are not willing to stand up and ask the question. And it's probably helpful for all of us as council members as well. So we do have certain things that are outside of our control as far as as far as spending money. There's certain things we can't control. We're mandated by the state for certain things, other things, negotiating contracts in order to be competitive with other cities and other organizations. We have to be able to pay at the same rate that they do. And that kind of has us over a barrel sometimes too. And then of course the requirements with the COVID funding, the ARPA funds, and all the rules that go with that. Yeah, Mrs. Dolan, would you like to speak to the microphone?
I have a question. What's ARPA?
Would you please define the term ARPA, Ms. Horner?
ARPA stands for ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. So that's the funds that were given by the federal government following the COVID-19 emergency. So we received funding in years 2021 and 2022 that total $4.6 million that have to be spent on general government expenditures. A lot of it was spent mitigating issues that came with COVID, but the federal government also allows us to use that money for any general government purpose. So we've been using a lot of that to update buildings, to do some deferred maintenance things that we hadn't been able to do.
And Mrs. Dolan actually handed the paper to Ms. Kennard. So if you want to look at it, it has the list and all the dollar amounts. Or we can make you a copy if you'd like.
All right, no, I know where she lives.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and I would have defined it in my previous, but I couldn't think of what all the letters stood for either. So I just called it COVID money. So, all right. So hopefully that answers questions. Council members, any questions or comments on this item?
I do.
Mr. Farmer.
I have not been in favor of hiring employees on ARPA money. We did vote to hire police officers on ARPA money, but when that money runs out, we've got to find it someplace else. I do see there's one.
And at the
Sure.
last meeting, I want to just correct an error that I made. I said that we had 4 police positions and the HR position, but I forgot to include the planning position. We had initially asked for a grant writer. We couldn't get that position filled. So the community development department asked for a planner. And so we do have those 6 positions that are funded through ARPA right now.
So I'm not in favor of hiring employees on the come. We need to have a dedicated revenue stream in order to make that commitment to hire somebody. So we don't hire somebody and then the ARPA fund goes and guess what? Sorry, but you're gone now too. So there's I can live with the police department ones, but the other ones I cannot live with. And then we're going to go into staffing positions. We're adding a recreation coordinator, a technology support assistant, a development technician, and a lead court clerk. And then we drop down to reclassified positions, and some of those talk about the added positions. Are the reclassified positions? How can we have the same job description in both? I don't know. I've got some problems there. I'm concerned that, as well as already been spoken, we're spending a lot of money, and I understand there's a lot of reasons why we are. Unfortunately, we're obligated. There's, you can vote all you want, but you still have to do it. And I think some of the things we're talking about here are things we have to do, but I think we're not being diligent in the ARPA money. And I would have some problems supporting this.
If I may.
Ms. Alba.
One of the things that we found out from the pandemic is everybody was at home and they weren't shopping in the stores. They were actually shopping on Amazon and having it delivered to their address in Sunnyside. For this reason, we had in 2022, just in that 1 year, an increase in our sales tax revenue of $1 million. 1 year. That trend has not changed. People are still buying on Amazon. People are still having things delivered to their door, and it made a huge difference for our city. So we have different revenue streams than we've had in the past. You also are looking at some of the things that when you create a position, that position has to be productive. Hiring the planner brought more business to town. We were able to get more business coming in for building permits. That's the thing. We know that we have to work to keep our jobs. I have to make sure that we're being diligent with looking at revenues, right? I have to make sure that I'm not going over my line items in my budget, just like the staff does. We really honestly live very frugally. You know, yes, we're getting new cars, but our cars are 15 years old, 16 years old. I was in the fire chief's old rig and the headliner was all falling off. It's not a good look for our city. And we are making changes using ARPA money. We do know that there's salaries to keep looking for. But our staff, we know this and we are going to keep a very close eye on it. So, and if Ms. Horner would like to say something.
I'll just to give you some details on the information that Elizabeth just gave. Our sales tax, our total sales tax for sales, retail sales and use tax category from 2020 to what we're estimating for 2024 has gone up by 61.4%. So in 2020, the amount that we brought in the actual was 4.2 million. In 2022, the last year we have an actual was 5.9 million. This year we're estimating 6.5 million. And next year we are only budgeting right now for 6.8 million. But that's because of a conservative budgeting practice. For 2022, we estimated a 4% increase to sales tax, just as we did across the board for everything. Same for 2023, but both of those years are trending at 9%. So 2022 went up by 9.4%. And we're estimating this year to go up by 9.06%. So the revenues are increasing as city manager mentions substantially in that sales tax category. And I mean, one of the unfortunate side effects of inflation is that prices go up for everything. But one of the benefits to having a sales tax supported local government is that our revenues tend to increase accordingly along with that, with inflation. So.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows, but for the longest time, your purchases on the internet, you didn't pay any sales tax. And then not so long ago, I think just before COVID went into effect, the destination sales tax. So every purchase you make on Amazon or online anywhere, you pay the sales tax for the place where you live. So if you live in Sunnyside, you'll be paying the Sunnyside sales tax. And as Ms. Horner mentioned, inflation causes prices to go up and your sales tax is a percentage of what you pay. And as prices go up, your sales tax also rises in actual dollars. And so you're going to see higher sales tax revenues from that as well. The destination sales tax with online purchases has been a boon to not only Sunnyside, but cities all over the country. And so we are seeing the benefits of that. And what that's done is has allowed us to do some things that we had to stop doing in, about 2008, 2009 during that recession. And City Hall there for a while looked like a ghost town. And you go there and you see it now, and it is bustling with activity. I had the opportunity to spend a morning there working on some things, and nobody's just sitting around playing computer games. I had to interrupt a couple of people to ask some questions to clarify some things. They were all quite busy. By the end of the morning, I was feeling horrible that I had actually bothered them so much because they all had a lot to do. But I also struggle a little bit with, with Mr. Farmer's comments as well. I agree that hiring employees with one-time money is kind of a risky thing. And that puts a lot of pressure on the employees. So those who were hired with ARPA money, they really do have to work to generate the income to keep themselves working. And of course, that's true with every employee in every business. If I hire anybody, he's got to pay for himself, or I can't afford to have him around. And that's the case here as well. So we're hoping that the employee there will generate, in case of planning, for example, increased permit revenues, building permit revenues, and those types of things to be able to pay his own position. So that's always the goal. The police officer, maybe not so much. We're not expecting that they write that many tickets to cover their salary every year. I think that would be an interesting challenge. Be a little more risky to drive through Sunnyside, a lot more expensive. But yeah, the goal is always that they become self-supporting in their job. And I think for the most part, we have seen that at least getting close to that. So, council members, other questions? Mr. Hicks.
I do agree with Mr. Farmer there that one-time money is not something you hire people with, but worst case scenario, federal government pulls the money back. Can we afford all the people we've put in?
At this point, yes, we're not relying, aside from those six positions,
That's what I'm talking
we're
about.
not relying on, but even if if the government pulled that money back, the city would be able to change we have other capital projects that we're spending money on that's not necessarily ARPA money. That's other general fund money that's being used on other capital items that we could rearrange some of our expenditure goals. We are not overstaffed to the point that having the federal government come back and take the ARPA money away would necessarily immediately cause us to have to lay off staff.
Is there a reason we couldn't change that around now? So we didn't have to worry about it later?
That would be a decision that council would make, and when we have the meetings and they let us know, but some of the issues that we are spending capital purchase money on are things that are street projects, parks, fixes to some of the parks, the whole animal control thing, that there is a capital requirement for that. We are going to try to fundraise for a lot of that, but ultimately that would be paid for out of the general fund, and it's not covered by ARPA funds right now. There's a lot of other priorities that the council puts in place throughout the year. And as we have meetings and the council approves different policies and different directions for the city to go, we build that into to our funding model. So of course, the council could say, we would like to defer all maintenance for the next 5 years. I'm not sure that is a good long-term plan, but we can always do that. We call it in the finance world a budget diet. We could put ourselves on a budget diet for a few years where we just don't do any discretionary spending. That would be a decision that would be made by the council.
Well, I think we're paying the price now for some of that same stuff where we put off maintenance longer than what we should have, and it's costing us a whole bunch more now than what it would have then. So that would not be
I agree.
my plan.
And I think that kind of defines the line that we have to walk here with our budget. We really do need to keep our streets and our water lines and our sewer lines functioning. We need to keep our police and fire departments not only staffed, but well equipped. And so deferring maintenance in order to do other things has not ended well, but at the same time, we need to be really careful how we spend money. So
there's a helpful graph in the budget document. So if what Jackie's sharing, it's right at the beginning of the revenues and expenditures. Next couple pages. Okay, so these are the revenues that support city operations. So most of our revenues come from taxes or charges for goods and services. So the charges for goods and services, if you scroll a little bit farther down, that's mainly for our enterprise funds. So our water services, sewer services, those things are supported by user fees. The things that are supported by tax money are our general fund, our street fund, tourism, public safety, crime prevention. So if you scroll down just a little bit more, so that's the blue line there is all taxes. And then if you go down a couple more, you'll see where our general fund expenditures are. So keep going. I'm not trying to pull the police department and throw them under the bus here, but I just want to show you a demonstration if you go down to the next page. So our general fund is mainly supported by tax revenue. This is the breakdown of the expenditures in our general fund. So public safety accounts for a huge portion of our general fund. The police department, and so if you scroll down a little farther, we can break down public safety into fire, police, municipal court. The police department in itself is the times a lot of more than any other department's expenditures. And we agree with you that that's the most important use of funds. It's the most important mandate of a city. There are a few things by law, cities have to provide for you, one of which is police and public safety. The cost of outfitting the police department with the upgrades in technology and the ever-changing environment of doing police work, especially in our state, has gone exponentially through the roof. And I don't know if the chief wants to comment on any of that, but there are a lot of expenditures encapsulated in that have to do with providing those pieces of technology that aren't necessarily mandated right now, but that are important, like the flock cameras, which actually for the first 2 years, we've gotten those paid for with ARPA money, but those are going to be an ongoing cost, just like staffing, because we have to pay a fee to the company to keep them updated and keep them online every year. And so that's a continuing cost. That is, I think, close to $100,000 probably per year. I think 103. There you go. $103,000 every year for that piece of technology that has been a huge help to the police department. But when we look at what are the things that we could cut, those are the types of things, unfortunately, that are the big chunks that make up that blue bar.
Further questions and comments? Going once, going twice. All right, this public hearing is now closed as of 7:11 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and explanations. Again, to members of the public, I encourage you to continue examining our budget. Ask questions whenever you can, whenever you have anything that you are not clear about, whether it's the staff person in charge or come to a council meeting, whatever the case may be. We encourage you to do that. This is an open public document. And I think far too often it sits in a corner gathering dust when our community members could be examining it very carefully. And anybody in City Hall would be happy to sit down with you and go over any questions you might have. Next item on our agenda then is item B, the 2024 fiscal year budget. Consider adopting an ordinance setting the budget for the 2024 fiscal year. And Madam City Manager, do you have anything to say on this?
No, I think we've talked about it enough. I think we're just ready for your council's decision.
All right. We've had a fair amount of discussion, questions and answers, which have been good. What is the desire of council on the 2024 budget?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Ripley, second by Councilor Hicks to adopt an ordinance setting the budget for the 2024 fiscal year. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, no.
No, and I'm voting no because of my previous comments.
Thank you. I too vote aye. Opinion of the chair. The motion carries. Excuse me while I write my notes here. All right, item C, 2024 classification and compensation schedule. Consider adopting an ordinance setting the compensation schedule for 2024. Madam City Manager.
Again, I'll defer to Ms. Horner.
Ms. Horner.
Thank you. This is just another process, sort of encapsulated with the budget process. We set the salary schedule every year, and those are the salary amounts that are authorized to be paid for any given position. The amounts are for the majority of our staff are set through collective bargaining agreements. For our non-represented staff, we take the average of the collective bargaining agreement cost of living increases and provide that to the non-represented staff. And I'm happy to answer questions on any of that for you.
Council members, any questions for Ms. Horner? We have had a couple of opportunities to look this over. So hearing no questions, what's the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Counselor Hicks, second by Counselor Ripley to adopt an ordinance setting the compensation schedule for 2024. Debate on this item. Hearing none. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item D, Astria Ambulance Transport Agreement Renewal. Consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Astria Sunnyside Hospital for ambulance transportation services. Manager has stepped out for a moment, so Ms. Horner, are you able to give us a bit of a
Yes.
briefing?
We've had an agreement with Astria Hospital here in Sunnyside to provide transports between local facilities for them. And they compensate us with a quarterly payment. So this is just extending the existing agreement for the next, I think it's a 3-year period through 2027. Oh, is it 5? Okay, 5-year period. There you go.
So any questions? I have one. Is it the same as it has been or has it gone up? I know I read it the other day, but I can't remember.
At this time, we have not done an increase, a CPI increase. I think we've kept the rates stable for them, just based on the cost and frequency of the services needed.
Okay.
Is there a reason why we're not evaluating our costs to where we know we're not dumping money down the garbage can?
I will see if the city manager wants to answer that question. I'm happy to if she doesn't want to attack it first.
Madam City Manager.
I'm actually gonna let Fire Chief speak to that matter.
Chief.
In short, we are absolutely taking no loss whatsoever. It is a good faith, good partnership agreement with us in the hospital. We have other, I guess you want to call, I don't like the term handshake agreements, but this is an all encompassing agreement between us and the hospital that has been very advantageous for both the fire department and the hospital, and has really promoted an excellent working relationship between us and them. So it is very much to the benefit of the city and the fire department. If that answers your question, sir.
The answer was it doesn't cost us any money. We are totally reimbursed for our expenses.
Correct. So any what we consider an interfacility transport, that's, for example, nursing home to nursing home or hospital to nursing home, those are all paid by insurance or Medicare, Medicaid. This agreement with the hospital is above and beyond that.
We would be providing these services to the hospital regardless, because we are the ambulance transport company in this area. So this is a good faith agreement with Astria Hospital to help compensate us for the fact that we are required to do that. And we don't always have time necessarily. So it pulls our staff off from other things.
Correct.
Further questions? Hearing none. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Counselor Ripley, second by Counselor Hicks to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Astria Sunnyside Hospital for ambulance transport services. Debate on this item. Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion carries. Item E. Amendment of SMC 10.08.045A, parking. Consider adopting an ordinance amending SMC 10.08.45A related to parking. Madam City Manager.
And I will refer to Fire Chief Hopperk.
Chief.
So just to clarify, this is just actually an amendment to an existing ordinance, which in essence takes existing parking street where it's normally designated as street parking and pretty much makes them designated fire department or city staff parking. And so the current ordinance reads for spots that really are, I don't even actually believe in existence anymore. And this is with the expansion of the fire station. So adding the new addition to it has alleviated the parking spots that have been mentioned in the existing ordinance. So all that we're wanting to do is just make it reapplicable and to orientate. So if you look at the map that's on the screen right there, there's 3 spots that are adjacent to the admin offices that have been utilized and designated as fire department parking. This just updates that again to reflect a more accurate ordinance. And so what we found, especially of recently, we've had a significant parking issue. Some neighboring businesses have had, business has been very good for them, which is great. But unfortunately, parking becomes an issue and we are losing spots for not only our staff members, but also responders, volunteers coming from home, any individual conducting business with the fire department, using our training facility, so on and so forth. We're having a pretty significant issue with that. So this will just help with that issue.
Questions or comments for the chief?
Does that mean that only staff or fire department can park there?
Or those conducting business at the fire department.
Like people who go to Smith Funeral Home can't park there? You know,
Correct.
Further questions?
Parking.
What you're saying then, chief, is that the parking lot at the fire station itself is not adequate to handle all the needs of.
Correct. So without the use of those 3 spots in the front, we would actually not even have enough parking in that side lot, which you can see just to the south there. Between our members on staff, our administrative personnel would occupy every spot. So that would open up no additional parking for anybody conducting businesses, any volunteer responders coming from home, or any additional volunteers that are working shift. So that is why we've pretty much transitioned our administrative parking to those street lots. So we have a few stalls open for people conducting business at the fire department. Again, today, case in point, we had some city members using our training facility for a meeting. If those spots were filled, I'm not really entirely sure where they would have parked.
Okay. There's no further questions or comments. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Counselor Hicks, second by Counselor Ripley to adopt an ordinance amending SMC 10.08.45A related to parking. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. All right, now we get to a series of annexations. Railroad annexation first. Consider adopting an ordinance completing the annexation of parcel number 230-905-11402, also known as the Railroad annexation. Madam City Manager.
And I'll turn this over to Mr. Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Oh, good evening, City Council. So tonight I have before you a request to adopt an ordinance for the final annexation of 70 Ray Road, which is currently, or which was formerly Tucker Cellars. This item has been before you in the past. It's just recently finished its 45-day boundary review board comment period. We got our letters back saying that there's been no other jurisdiction has expressed any sort of interest in the property. So I am this evening requesting an annexation of the city council. I believe that this property was purchased by the city and is going to be used in the future for potentially for a fire and police substation. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions for Mr. Martin? Mr. Martin, at one time I heard that there was going to be a fire training facility included in all of this. Is that still on the books, or?
I am not sure.
Chief, do you have a better answer for that, or?
Short answer is that, to my understanding, it's still in the plans. It is a very extensive project. But to my understanding, that is still the designation for at least part of that property use.
Okay, but it is a long-term plan. It's not something we're going to try to get into in the next years.
No, this will be a phased plan, very much phased. And once we have a chance, just so you know, fire personnel and myself and possibly Jameson will be attending a conference in May that goes over how to do this the right way with all the experts. So we want to take a cautious approach, but we also want to do it the right way so that we don't end up with something that we don't need or is not to the scale we need.
And Madam City Manager says, to add to the council as well, part of the conference as well as actually goes over different opportunities or different ways to achieve funding to help finance these endeavors.
And that's good to know too, because I think there'll be a big chunk of funding out of the city of Sunnyside, but that's not completely connected to an annexation. Council members, further questions about this item? Hearing none, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Counselor Ripley, second by Counselor Hicks to adopt an ordinance completing the annexation of parcel number 230-905-11402, also known as the Ray Road annexation. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. And for those who don't know, this is something that's been in process for quite a few years now. It's just now reaching this point, but it's been an ongoing project that we've been working on, so. Item G, Robinson final annexation. Consider adopting an ordinance completing the annexation of parcel numbers 2231031-34401. 34, and then this, the ending of each of these is 3402, 34405, 34406, 34407, 33408, and 43401, also known as the Robinson annexation. Madam City Manager.
Again, I will turn this over to Mr. Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Good evening again. So I have before you which hopefully isn't too unfamiliar, it was initially an annexation request submitted by Mr. Clyde Robinson for a property on the near the south west site of exit 60. I forget the exit number up there exactly off the top of my head. Kind of kitty corner from the movie theater. Off of Alexander Road. It's approximately 21.8 acres, and Mr. Robinson has requested to bring this property into the city as R1 low density residential. The county boundary review board has just finished its 45-day review period, and there have been no jurisdictions that have expressed any sort of interest in the property. So I'm requesting that City Council approve and adopt the ordinance annexing the Robinson property into the city.
Council, questions for Mr. Martin? All right, just one question. That property is just west of the property that the hospital had purchased, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's south of Interstate 82, just west of the hospital property along Alexander Road. His goal is to construct homes in there, if I remember
I
correctly.
believe, yes.
Further questions? Hearing none. What is the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Counselor Hicks, second by Counselor Ripley to adopt an ordinance completing the annexations of all the aforeread property plot numbers, parcel numbers, also known as the Robinson annexation. Debate on this item. Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I also vote aye. Motion passes. And then I don't know why, but I also always butcher this name, Euretia. Final annexation. Consider adopting an ordinance completing the annexation of parcel number 221-035-21443, also known as Euretia annexation. Every time I read the name, it feels like I'm reading it wrong. And I apologize for that. Okay, Ms. Martin, I'm assuming it's going.
Yes, Ms. Martin.
And good evening once again. One final annexation for you tonight is a annexation request submitted by Mr. Stephen Ureta. I also say it Ureta. I'll have him correct me on tomorrow. Okay. But this is for approximately 3.23 acres in the vicinity of Heffron Road and Riverside. Parcel number 221-035-21443. And a request to bring this into the city as R1 low density residential as well. This recently finished up the Yakima County Boundary Review Board process, and there was no jurisdiction that expressed any sort of interest. So I'm requesting that council adopt the ordinance annexing this into the city.
Council, any questions for Mr. Martin?
Is that piece of property is that from Southwest Crescent up to Riverside, the whole, there's two residences in there. At least two residences in there.
Yeah, it's the large middle portion,
So we're just taking a hunk out of the middle then, is that what we're doing?
more or less, yeah. It's on, right on the screen.
Yeah, I don't, this might help you too, Mike.
But yes, it's right on the, I guess, southwest side of all the project, the Country Gals project that's been happening.
So that project does not include that 2-acre parcel that's down on the corner south of there, nor does it include those two housing parcels up above. They're still outside of city limits.
Correct.
Okay. But it is adjacent to other city.
Not making an island.
We're not making an island. Yeah, I double checked that one real carefully because I couldn't see that right away either.
We legally can't.
I know.
Yeah.
Further questions for Mr. Martin? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Ripley, second by Counselor Hicks to adopt an ordinance completing the annexation of parcel number 221-035-21443. Any debate on this item? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Items from council members. Mayor's appointments for boards and commissions is the first one. We have the one vacancy still on the Community and Economic Development Committee. I have received 2 applications. I have one more that I am expecting. A person met with me personally, but we received an application not too long ago, I think just a few days ago, that I have yet to get all the way through. But I hope to be able to make an appointment for this vacancy before the end of the year. That would mean our next regular meeting in December. So I'm hoping to meet with all of those, read through the applications. And if the third one that I'm expecting to come in doesn't come in, well, then that individual will just be out of the running for this time. But just a heads up, I do intend to meet with or review the boards and commissions and see where everybody is as far as their term and those whose terms are expiring, to find out if they wish to continue serving in that position. So that is something that I am hoping to work on here in the next couple of weeks as well. And give Mr. Farmer something to do in the next few weeks. Because he is part of that committee as well. All right, next item is council request status report. And Madam City Manager.
And there's no changes to any of the items right now. City staff intends in January to have a planning retreat. And this document will be one of the things that we go over. Because we need to get these cleaned up and off of this list so that you can give us another one. So that's all I have for an update. So I think we'll take it out of the packet for the next meeting until we get a chance to actually go over it and have some long talks about how we're going to get these things finished out.
All right, council members, if there's any items that you think that need to go on to this document, please either speak to myself or the manager. Remember, it is for a couple of you, one last opportunity to clutter up the agenda of city staff. And I don't mean to make jokes, but still at the same time, I sometimes find it difficult to not. So not trying to be disrespectful at all. All right, other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. And we're going to start with you, Mr. Hicks. Nothing. Miss Ripley. Mr. Farmer.
Nothing.
All right, well, I just have one thing to report, and that is that I was at the ribbon cutting event for Hoptown. And, it's been a long while in process, but it's nice to see that one finally come together. They did a beautiful job on that building. It's hard to believe that was once a 1970s era Kentucky Fried Chicken. It is just a beautiful building that they put together. I sometimes think it would have been cheaper and more effective or easier, quicker done, maybe to have torn the entire building down, but they had their reasons for doing what they did. The pizza's as good as always. And if you've ever been to the one up there at the Donald Wapato exit, this will be more convenient for us here in Sunnyside, which I'm always in favor of. They've hired quite a few people, staff from Sunnyside, and I like to see that, more jobs coming into town. And business downtown, activity, movement, I think is a good thing as well. So that was a fun event to attend. So kudos to the port for bringing that all in, and thanks to everybody from the city who was involved in facilitating all of that. And of course, we're looking forward to a couple of events starting this week and into next week. And I'm sure the manager will discuss that here in just a little bit because she likes to be involved in all of that. So I'm not going to take that away from her. So, all right, item D, upcoming council meetings.
So the next meeting is December 4th, is a workshop, discuss the fee schedule changes from ordinance to resolution and updates to rates for 2024, and then updates to stormwater section in our city code. And then Mayor, you're going to let me know what council would like to do for the city manager's evaluation for that meeting. December 11th is a regular meeting. You'll have the action on the final budget amendment for 2023, approve updated personnel policy, update SMC for stormwater service charges, pass updated fee schedule for 2024. And depending on when you meet for the city manager's evaluation, take action on that on the 11th. And then also consider selecting the 2024 official newspaper.
Okay, so we do have a few things to do yet this year. But the good news is we've adopted the budget. It's a balanced budget, which means that we don't have to work till the last minute at the end of the year. All right, if there's any items that need to be added to the agenda, please speak with myself, the city manager, and we can get those items added. And that did bring up a question, council. In the question of the city manager evaluation, we discussed doing that at the workshop. The goal was to get this done before the end of this year so that this council who has the experience working with the manager, and we've got that background, is able to perform the evaluation. I think that gives a better perspective than and it's also not fair to ask incoming council members to evaluate somebody in their first month of serving. They don't have that kind of experience with her yet. So is there any objection to doing that at the workshop meeting 1 week from tonight? I would ask that you would all do your best to have that rubric filled out so that you can give your position on each of those. Please keep in mind that if your position is on either of the extreme ends, either the extreme high or the extreme low, that you be able to give an explanation for that choice. But if it's filled out, I think we can probably get it done in an hour. I'm going to ask for probably an hour and a half to get that done in, just to be sure. But if it's all prepared in advance, I think we can get done pretty quickly. So that will be at the end of the workshop meeting. Did they give you the information you need, Mr. Renteria? All right. All right. Items from department heads. Madam City Manager.
Okay, I'm going to go first since I do want to report on all the activities that are coming up this next week. Friday, December 1st, we will have our downtown lighting at 6 o'clock, and then that will be followed by the kids lighted parade. The kids are being asked this year to bring an ornament, and we're going to have a tree down there for them to decorate. And then that tree that's decorated by all of our Sunnyside kids will go to the Festival of Trees so that they can be proud of it there and our community get to love it a second time. So to remember, that's at 6 o'clock for the lighting, and then the parade will start just right after we get everything lit up. And then December 2nd is the Rotary Lighted Farm Implement Parade. Starts at 6. You may have your fire there as long as it is keeping you warm or keeping you fed. Is that correct?
Technically, yes.
I had that question last year. It was the first time I'd ever had someone actually ask me. So that's, again, one of our signature events, really fun. And then we start that weekend with the Soroptimists. They do their bazaar at the mall. There's just lots of people that are going to be doing stuff this next weekend, and it's going to be a busy place for us. But again, that's a lot of money coming into town, so we'll take it. And then the following weekend, Friday night, the community center will be closed. There's going to be a dinner for all of our doctors at Astoria Hospital. And then on Saturday, we will be putting the final touches on the Festival of Trees, which is going to start at 6 o'clock, open to the public to buy tickets. I already have started glittering today. I had glitter all over me. So we'll be closing the community center for the next 3 weeks in order to do that party. And then the following day, Miss Sunnyside is putting on a Santa brunch, I think is what they're calling it. And so that'll be from 10 to 2. You can come have brunch with Santa, and the kids can come in and play games. It's geared more towards the families to be able to come in. Then the following week, on Friday, the 15th, anyone that is an employee or on a board and commission has been invited to the city employee Christmas party. We want to give back and thank all of those people that have done something for our community. And you don't get paid anything for serving on a committee, so we can at least throw you a nice dinner and some enjoyable company. So lots of stuff coming up in the next few weeks. Hopefully it can die down a little after that so we can all actually enjoy the holiday. So that's all I have. And I will start with Chief Lehman.
Right. Mayor and council, first thing I want to go over is a couple of stats, and then I'll talk about some things the police department's got going on. So in the past 30 days, we've handled 807 incidents, 197 traffic stops, 72 arrests, 47 criminal non-traffic, and 17 criminal traffic. That's what the arrest total is. 61 traffic infractions. Year to date, 8,331 incidents, 2,198 traffic stops, 776 arrests. 570 of those arrests are non-traffic, 348 are criminal traffic. Infractions, non-traffic, we have 12. Those would be like parking in a handicap stall, things like that. 992 traffic infractions. As far as crime stats, aggravated assaults are down 18.9%. Burglary, breaking and entering down 40.5%. Motor vehicle thefts down 43%. Robberies down 77%. Simple assaults down 11%. Theft from a motor vehicle is down 37%. Theft of a motor vehicle, parts or accessories are down 60%, and weapons violations are down 10%. So we had a turkey giveaway. I don't know if you guys know about that. So the plan was to try and get 50 turkeys. Well, we ended up with 173 turkeys. And when we were at 161, a local business person stepped up and turned them all into meals. So we gave away 173 turkeys. And at the time when he went and purchased the meals, we were at 161. So 161 meals were given away. The event went great. The traffic plan worked flawlessly. We lined everybody up down some roads that are, minimally used. And then we were able to control them coming across a small amount at a time across 6th Street into the Ace parking lot. They got their stuff. They were able to exit, and then we brought another group of cars over. We've already been contacted by several people with interest in helping us do something around Christmas time. So that's the plan there. We put in for a GISA Hometown Heroes grant. I think I reported on this before, but $15,000 was awarded to us for ballistic helmets for the patrol division. Today I hosted the board of the Heroes grant that decides who gets that money. They came to the police department, did a tour. We talked about what we purchased last year when they gave us $40,000 for shields. And then we talked about our plan to get the helmets. They've been ordered, but they just haven't come in yet. We had a patrol test recently. We have 10 people that are moving on. The next step is oral boards on Wednesday. So we're hoping to get some hires out of that. And our canine, or not our canine, but our animal control issues are never ending. So we have an animal control officer now and, like we expect her to go out and pick up stray dogs. Well, now we've got a pile of dogs in the back and we're having difficulty getting rid of them. So she's been put back on the don't pick up stray dogs. We have no place to put them. We're having a hard time getting them adopted out or taken to a humane society, whether that's Yakima, Tri-Cities, anywhere else. I told her, I said, I don't care if you have to drive to Spokane one day on your work day, find a place for these dogs. And she's having a hard time. We had one dog here for a month and a half. It finally got adopted out today. It took us a while, but we found it. So the dog issue is a challenge. We're working through it.
I suspect it will continue to be a challenge.
That's something,
I don't want to hear that.
that's something we could add to the city website.
Actually, yeah, it's already on there. And I haven't talked to Jackie about this, but Sunnyside Sun wants to partner with us on some advertising. So we may have some advertising in the paper with, dogs that are available.
It'd be nice if you could advertise on Facebook, the pictures of the dogs that need to be adopted, and a lot of people get on Facebook and
I try to put them on the PD page, so you may see some there. Like we had a pit mix that was left at Safeway and it had a Gap sweater on. Well, I'm assuming that's probably someone's dog, but of course it's here. And so we're waiting for some, but that was posted on the PD Facebook page. So a lot of, we're bringing in so many dogs and there's so many loose dogs. It's hard to get them all posted. If we post in Facebook, if you post 7 times a day, one of those posts might gain enough traction for somebody to see it. So the plan, when you're working social media and you're trying to get as much reach as you can, the plan is either post once a day or you just post in the morning and the evening. So if you flood with too many posts, there's not going to be seen. So it's kind of strategic. We can't always get all the dog pictures out there, but we're trying. So amongst our other stuff we're doing, we're trying to get out there too. So.
Well, and I contributed to the last adoptee and he's now 3 months old and a big monster.
I can tell you a huge partner of ours, and they haven't really asked for much recognition, has been Tractor Supply. Ripped open bags of dog food by the pallet they've donated to us. They gave us an extra kennel. And then one of our sergeants said, hey, we need 2 kennels. I'll buy the second one. They said, okay, I'll give it to you for half off. They've been a great partner of ours. And it's just when we've needed something and asked, hey, what do you have? And they've pretty much donated most of the stuff. So they've been great.
Ms. Horner.
I don't have much except to say thank you to the council and everyone and staff and the public who participated in getting the budget passed. It's always nice for us to get this done before we get into December. And we're trying to wrap up 2023. So just thank you very much for everyone's help with that terribly difficult project.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, council. I just wanted to report back on Spalding. I researched the resolution that was done back in 2007. And so I talked to our engineers as far as how we would follow this. Right now, we're going to do some public outreach, get some notices out there to the people that are going to be affected by it there in that area, and finish turn this into a one-way. The other thing I wanted to just also share coming up would be is that quarterly, we're part of a regional stormwater group, and Sunnyside will be hosting the next quarterly meeting December 7th. So we'll be meeting here in Sunnyside on that, which is Yakima County, Sela, Union Gap, and Sunnyside are part of this group. We just go over stormwater needs and updates to the permit and just share information back and forth. That's all I have.
Mr. Martin?
So I don't have too much for you, but just a few updates. The Planning Commission recently approved some text amendments, so you'll be seeing those relatively soon. And our code enforcement team is back fully staffed. One of the vehicles has had some issues, so we're in the process right now of trying to figure out the vehicle situation. So you may see them riding around together a little more than usual. So that's just what happened. One of the vehicles is kind of in pretty rough shape. And then for the For the month of November, mind you, we only had one code enforcement officer on for most of the month. We've had 30 code enforcement cases, and 11 of which are still active at this time. And we've been getting some repeat offenses in some areas like reoccurring graffiti and reoccurring other things that have just kind of kept some of the code cases open. So that's all I have for you.
Do you have anything, Mr. Riley? Mr. Habrick?
All right, thank you very much. Just a couple factoids from the fire department. Year-to-date call volume, we are on track to surpass our previous year. Current as of when I left the station, we've actually had a couple since I've been here, but we're at 3,948 emergency incidents so far for the year. So continues to pick up. Within the last 2 weeks, we've had 155. This is the big one I'm really excited to mention. When I pulled the numbers today, my jaw dropped. And so our total training hours year to date are 2,943 hours of training for our agency, which, to put into perspective, is 122 and a half days straight. What that is a combination of all staff training hours. This kind of a little anecdote. In the last probably about 6 months, I've posted up required trainings and showing our staff members where they at their training, minimum requirement trainings to meet the WAC and FPA, so on and so forth. And then I started to put each individual's training hours just as a complement to that initial graph that I put up there. A good number of my staff use that as a competition. So I have a few staff members now who have keep in mind, this is all vetted training. This isn't just kind of willy-nilly training. This is again, all vetted training. I have certain staff members that have individually over 400 training hours. So it was didn't mean to turn out to be a competition, but it did, and it was very beneficial. So I'm very proud of our members and see how much desire and drive they have to better themselves, and which in turn makes them a better fit and asset for our community. So pretty excited about that. Just got an email a couple minutes ago regarding the ambulance that we had approved for purchase a few weeks back. It is, as we speak, in transit from Quebec, which is where it was manufactured, to the dealer in Hillsborough, where it'll be outfitted and then set up for delivery, which should be about 4 to 5 weeks to follow. Myself and a couple members of what we're calling our apparatus committee, who kind of helped design and put the build together, we'll be traveling down to Hillsborough in about the next week and a half to do a final inspection on that rig before they make the final adjustments and prepare it for delivery. So we're very excited to hopefully have that in service probably about the first week of 2024. So if you see a nice, bright, shiny red ambulance driving around, we're excited. So
the logos will be in English, not French, though, correct?
Yes, but we have to respond in kilometers per hour, not miles per hour. So slight adjustment. No, just kidding. But unless you have any questions, that's all I have from the firehouse.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So seems like there was one more thing I was going to mention, but now I don't remember what it was. Usually the case. I'll remember it as soon as everybody leaves the room. So there being no further business to come before council, and if there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned.